Art, it's great to have you. You did write that 4,000 is important, and if it's violated, may raise questions about 3850 and other support levels.
Yeah, there are several things that traders are watching. Once again, Carl, we're back in the special relationship between the yield on the 10-year and the indices. The yield up above 315 for today would put some pressure on the markets. Right now, we're down in neutral territory. They break that 4,000 area, it'll be key. That'll change a lot of charts. The technicians, I'm just a cocktail napkin technician, but the professionals will then be looking at where the next support levels are, and they are down around 3850 or so, if I can see this right. And so we're in a very key testing area. One other thing, as John Fort correctly said, people were surprised with Putin's speech not being more direct. There was also, for the first time in my memory, no airplane flyover in the parade. And that could have some interesting meanings about security and other things. So traders are going to have to watch a great many things today. That yield on the 10-year, the levels if we break them. Another key level would be Apple at 150. So we've got a plate full of things to watch, Carl.
Yeah. What happened to the view that 90% down days are constructive? Does that hold today? And one of the things we talked about with Cramer this morning was the VIX refusing to go above 35, even 34 this morning. Why, given so much of the carnage right now, Art?
That is a key, Carl. I think last week or so you asked me about, I think it had been the previous Friday sell-off or whatnot. Yeah, those 9-to-1 sell days could be capitulation, but you've got to get that VIX to kick in. You've got to see some of those option players say, okay, this is enough. So if you got a 9-to-1 sell-off day and the VIX up at 40, I'd throw my hat in the ring and say, I think that's a washout. But unless you can get the two together, you're going to be somewhat suspect here.
Art, it's Morgan. Speaking of hats, the fact that some investors and some strategists are coming on and hanging their hats on this idea of peak inflation and a stabilization in terms of the inflation data and how important CPI is this Wednesday. Do you buy into that, or are there just bigger factors at play here, and it almost doesn't matter whether 8.5% was the top or not?
No, I think it will be critical. It may not be flipping a switch here, Morgan. I think this idea of transitory and pipeline-influenced inflation is still out there. So people are wondering. There are many of us who bought into the pipeline inflation thing who thought that after the Lunar New Year that China would begin to ease up, and then we had the COVID outbreak, and that never came about. So we'll be watching. I do think, as I say, it's not going to be flipping a switch, but people will watch the inflation data that we get in the middle of the week and some data after it. If it looks like it's going to go down, that will raise hopes. That won't be a quick signal, but will tell people, more importantly than what the stock market's doing, that may allow the Fed to go maybe one more 50, but not promise two 50s in a row. Way too early to say. I think it's out there as a possibility, but Morgan, I would not see it as the flip of the switch that will tell you, okay, that's it, let's go.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.